Captain Locke pressed on. His friend had offered him some goods, but even he was limited. Well, at least the lost sailor had a warm cloak. He wasn't shivering on his way down the mountainside. Still, it was cold, and a storm was brewing. Snow blew across his face until it hurt. He buried his head as much as he could in his cloak. Snow was building up, and he struggled to take each step. A light drew his attention. It was a small cabin. Someone was home. Captain Locke sped up. "Hello?" he called out between labored breaths. "Hello?" The door slid open, and he saw a woman by it. Her skin was as white as snow, and her hair completely black. He couldn't even guess her age, but she was gorgeous. Her blue lips let out the softest of commands. "Come in," she offered. The man gladly accepted. Her home was bitterly cold inside, even colder than the blizzard outside. There was no flame in the hearth. Yet, what caused the man to step backwards was the remains of loggers, frozen and long dead, but not from the cold. They had been drained of their life force. Captain Locke could feel it. Turning around, he stared into the piercing eyes of the Yuki-onna. Welcome back to Mythical Phylogeny Adventures. I'm your guide, Jason. There are many creatures which linger in blizzards and deep winter. Among them is the Yuki-onna, the classical snow woman of Japan. Let's take a look at this chilling entity. The Yuki-onna hails from Japan, but depending on where you are, the name and story changes. There are as many different takes on the snow woman as there are different snowflakes, so I won't be able to count all of them, but I'll cover the major points. The Yuki-onna is described as a woman with skin as white as snow. Her hair is either pure white or black, depending on the speaker. Her lips are often described as blue, like someone who is freezing. This is important, for in many of the origins, it talks about a woman who freezes to death, lost in the woods, someone who is escaping loss or filled with anger. In all takes, someone who dies while suffering with heavy negative emotions. This sounds like the perfect formula for the birth of a ghost, a phantom. While the Yuki-onna is tangible, but isn't perfect here. Our spirit seems to be holding itself together using snow and cold. Yet, that is a problem, as you'll see. Her behavior varies. In most stories, she is malicious. She'll lure people into the blizzard where they will freeze to death. Sometimes, she's been invited into a person's home, and even marries men. But while in the home, she avoids any warmth, a bath, or an oven in some takes. She'll bear children, which are human. In all tales, when exposed to the heat of a flame, she will perish, though she may escape by turning into a blizzard and escaping through the chimney. She isn't always evil. She'll help when she feels like it, and is loyal. This reinforces the idea that we have a ghost bound to the snow. Our spirit is using its own energy to preserve the snow from any heat. Snow is already a decent heat insulator, but far from the best. Yet it can come apart. This means that our specter is able to disperse the snow about. It lets her slip through narrow and tight areas, but there is an issue. The Yuki-onna can bear human children. An incorporeal body can't do that. Not one made of snow either. It'll need to be sturdy enough to provide for the child. Just snow won't work. But remember where a snow woman is said to come from? A woman who freezes to death. What I think is going on is that the body is able to disperse into frozen chunks. That results from the frozen body and heavy frostbite. So, the snowflakes which comprise the Yuki-onna would be the remains of its original human body. That will allow it to have children without too much complication. By that means carrying the child, including into the summer heat. There are a few options for how the Yuki-onna can pull this off. 1. The child is protecting their mother, absorbing enough of its own life force to survive, taking some from her husband, or more gruesome, or spirit is attacking others and killing them, all without letting her husband find out. What do I mean by attacking? To preserve her snowy figure, she is often described as feeding on her victims, either by draining the life force or even blood from her victims. An ice vampire, maybe? This is used as fuel to protect the snow-based body of the Yuki-onna. How can she do this? Well, remember the descriptions of freezing? That comes from heat being pulled away by our phantom. Now, the Yuki-onna has another means of battle. Sometimes she is seen with a child. Maybe she froze to death with her child. She will ask someone to hug the child. When they do, the child will grow heavy and heavier until it can't be held up. The person will freeze to death. It sounds like the child is adding more snow and ice to its body. Ice is dense, only slightly less than water, at 0.9 grams per cubic centimeter, and 1 gram for water, or about 8.3 pounds per gallon. They'll get heavy pretty quick. It will use the stolen heat from your body to grow the child. But there is one man who succeeded in hugging the child and survived. He had a tanto knife in his mouth that was near the child's head. It would seem that the metal of the blade absorbed the heat back. The answer is fairly simple. Iron has a specific heat of 0.44 joules per gram Kelvin, while ice is 2.093 joules per gram Kelvin. Heat will flow out of you and into the air, then into the ice shelf and the Yuki-onna. The greater the difference in temperature, the faster the transfer of heat will occur. It also means that with the metal blade absorbs the heat from the air faster than the ice shelf is able to absorb it to grow. He was rewarded with his survival with treasure from the Yuki-onna. Now, if you don't hug the child, it doesn't get any better. Those folk often meet a grisly end as well, chased by a storm, plagued by cold. There is one final thing to speak about with the Yuki-onna. She isn't always a villain. There are many accounts of her being friendly and saving people, leading lost folk out of the cold, stormy nights. There are some remnants as to the person she once was. What the criteria of who she attacks and who she saves is unknown. She is very loyal though, and if you make a promise, she'll keep it as long as you keep your end of the bargain. So, how do we defeat the Yuki-onna? First off, all her attacks involve the winter, so you know when she can strike. Watch out for storms and sudden blizzards. When traveling out in such conditions, know your path. But best to stay inside. Yet, if you see someone out in the storm, do you let them inside? Any decent person would, but you'll need to watch out for someone who matches the Yuki-onna's description. Is her skin cold? Does the air chill as she enters the room? The Yuki-onna has one major weakness: heat. Fire spells are great, if you know what you are facing. If not, create a warm wind. Something subtle that can spread through the air. That'll hurt the ice one, melt her, and potentially catch her off guard. A quick way to get the fight on your side. Prolonged exposure is fatal. As for what protection you'll want, Yuki-onna only has coal to attack with. I would avoid metal armor, both chainmail and plate. Either could freeze to your skin. Gambeson or a warm coat will offer better protection here. As for weapons, nothing melee will work. If you swing a sword, she'll just turn to snowflakes, and you won't be able to cut her. Same will be true for spears, bows, maces, and your fists. No, you'll need magic. If not a way to make fire, even a torch can protect you. In theory, having something metal may reduce the risk of life force and heat draining powers of our creature, but not if it does drink blood. Honestly, your best defense is fire magic here. Keep the flame between you and the specter, and you should be safe. Now, if you do meet a child with our ice woman, you'll want to hug it, but you can't freeze. Do what our man did and have a knife in your mouth as you pick up the child. Yuki-onna has the potential to be a dangerous foe when not prepared. That is why I am giving her a 5 of 10 for difficulty. Bring some heat and you can avoid the worst of this fight, with only a little difficulty. But she is patient and preys on those who are at their weakest time. So, you face the Yuki-onna. What follows? Well, if you hug the child and survive, you'll get rewarded by the ice woman. Her treasure will be yours. It is a small sum of money. Definitely nice to get. The melted snowflakes can be used to enhance cold magic and potions of frost resistance. But there are easier ways to make those potions. But could you recruit the Yuki-onna into your party? She has been known to marry. That means she is willing to work with humans. As a party member, she is an expert in frost magic and curses, perfect for crowd control and facing down plant-based foes. She can drain the life force of your enemies, but is highly likely to do the same to you. Do you have a priest which can protect your party from the negative effects? She could be a powerful ally, or a massive liability. Personally, I'd keep my distance. Her motives and actions are as fickle as the weather. Loyalty can only go so far, and she isn't something that fares well in warmer temperatures. It could take out all your use of fire magic as well, and those can be useful too. Would you chance marrying someone like this? Dangerous? Would you feel safe knowing what she is and prone to doing? The Yuki-onna glared at the man. He felt his skin freeze, even through the garbs. Her magic was already taking effect. He was getting weak. Time was short. Flames filled his hands, and his foe stepped back. The door flew open, and the storm raged inside. Captain Locke was blinded by flying snow. The room was as bad as the blizzard outside. Blindly, he sent flames about, left, right, and anywhere else he could. It did nothing. His concentration broke as he shook from the cold. It was too much. Something grabbed him and pulled him down. Between the streaking snow, Captain Locke saw the white face. He felt her cold breath freeze his cheeks. Her eyes pierced him while her hands bound him down. Ice formed over his wrists, freezing him in place. His final instincts kicked in. At point-blank range, he let out his fire. He caught her in the face, which began to melt from the heat. She staggered backwards as he sent the flames over his wrists. Freed, he pushed himself up and let off another wave of heat. His foe cowered and moved towards the door. He was too fast, though. This time, he caught her. The Yuki-onna's once beautiful features twisted and vanished in an instant. With a final scream, she perished. Captain Locke scrambled to the door and slammed it shut. There he waited for the cabin to warm up. Him alone with the corpses of the Yuki-onna's earlier victims. The Yuki-onna can be a dangerous opponent. So long as you have the heat to protect yourself, you'll be fine. Thank you for watching, adventurers. Please return next week, where we shall encounter one of the most vile creatures in all the mythology. Until then, I'll see you on the roads.